Hello, everyone. Welcome to another inspiring session of modulyss Talks. I'm Kiani, your host, and I'm excited to have you join us today. At modulyss Talks, we aim to educate and inform design industry experts by exploring key topics that shape and build our environments. In this session, we're diving down in the world of acoustics once again, this time with a focus on hospitality spaces. Acoustics play a crucial role in creating comfortable and immersive environments, and understanding the right solutions can truly transform the space. So to guide us through this, we have Daniel Verloven with us. Daniel is an acoustic ambassador from Impact Acoustics and a leading expert in the field. He'll be sharing his insights into innovative acoustical solutions, including soft flooring designed to deliver both sound harmony and striking aesthetics. A quick note before we begin, the chat is disabled, so you cannot use the chat, but you can submit any questions you have via the Q&A button, and we'll address them at the end of the session as usual. Yes, now let's get started. The floor is yours, Daniel.
Hello. Okay, thanks everybody. Yeah, for those who are enjoying their lunch, I hope you have a great time there. The next half an hour, I want to share some hints, some tips in how to optimize acoustics in hospitality settings. You know, it's all about guest and customer experience, customer satisfaction. And I think for you as an architect, consultant, designer, or whoever is attending, it's key to really prioritize on that simple principle of creating the best possible environment for your guest or your customer. The only thing that you don't have any hand in, unfortunately, especially in a restaurant, is that you cannot establish the menu. You don't choose a staff. And this is very elemental because you can create the right environment, but then it's up to the owners or to the staff to deliver what you have been setting up. So I want to see things a bit from a wider perspective. So not only limit myself to flooring, but also bring in a lot of other acoustical solutions, because you probably know from previous sessions that in acoustic, size does matter. So the more density, the more volume, the more mass that you bring in, the better your product will perform, and the better it will also pick up and absorb all those terrible sound waves which are propagating through all the spaces. So I'm gonna take it from here. Let's see if my slide deck works. Yeah, that does it. So what is the impact of the acoustic environment on our well-being? I mean, you have all been reading a lot of studies and research, like how impactful noise, and especially bad noise, is on our daily proceedings. But in order to better understand, especially in hospitality settings, how we as human beings behave, our patterns, they come really from our ancestors. They found out that about 90% of our genomes, which is the amount of DNA in one cell, we owe it to the Neanderthalers. And that's why I want to bring up this nice little slide deck to just try to make you understand how we still behave now in an office space, in hospitality settings. We own it because it's embedded within our DNA. So if you just imagine in the morning, our ancestors, they would wake up, they didn't have a door, they just had a flame at the front of their entrance in order to make sure that no predators could come into the night and steal food or hurt the family. So they would go out in the morning, and they would be surrounded by beautiful, beautiful daylight, and also those wonderful nature sound, the hissing of the trees, the noise of the river, the plants, and they would be in a very, what we call now, a biophilic environment. This is also the reason why massively during COVID, we've discovered that wonderful bonding we have with Mother Nature. We went out there jogging, running, hunting with family, with partners and friends, just to enjoy that wonderful unity that we have with Mother Nature. And it has been also reflected in your setting. So if as a designer and architect, you can reflect that into hospitality settings, people will also release what we call serotonin. It's one of those endorphins that or a happiness hormone that will make you feel happier and also will calm you down. When it comes to tasking, nowadays, we really are demanding a lot of our brain to process a lot of activities at the same time. They just had one aim, and that's to feed the family. So ancestors, they would go out in the morning and they would go out hunting to bring in some food on the plate in the evening. They would come back in the evening and they would all gather around the fireplace. The fireplace, because it would provide them protection from the enemies, but also sitting in the round added up to that feeling of conviviality, of togetherness. Also, one of the reasons when you design a restaurant, always go for round shapes. It just creates a better feeling of togetherness and conviviality as well. So when you look at the shape of the cave itself, it was all built up of very porous material, so it didn't have any acoustical problems. But when we started erecting buildings with parallel floor ceilings, parallel walls, we just ask for trouble unless we bring in acoustical treatment. So that means that all those sound waves that are propagating, they're bouncing back and forth against all the elements before they lose their initial energy. But our ancestors, they just had the best perfect setting in order to be able to enjoy the quiet as well. When I mentioned the quiet, this is also very key when we design a restaurant. We are so keen on our privacy and that we don't want to be distracted or disturbed because, as I mentioned, they only had one job, our ancestors, and it was to go out for hunting. They didn't have to be distracted by any other activity at all. Also, one of the reasons why still nowadays people cannot multitask, it takes about 21 minutes to get back into your initial focal point when you're supported or when you are really have a lot of noise going on around you. So also the shape of the cave will also indicate why also nowadays we don't want to be seated in the middle of the restaurant because we don't feel protected. We're just completely exhibited and completely exposed at our virtual enemies. So we really want to sit in that corner edge. When we go to a coffee bar, your preferred place is sitting at the window so that you can see your virtual enemy coming in. So we as human beings are not as sociable as animals are. We gather in family, in groups, but going into a restaurant is something very individualistic. We just have to suffer the noise and the chit-chatting of all the people sitting around us. And just because we see them or conceive them as the virtual enemy, we are more distracted and more triggered by what's happening around us. So therefore, it's really important and key that we try to create a very quiet environment so that people can enjoy their food. But that also is the case, for example, the hotel room. The hotel room, I have it because I travel a lot. When I go into a hotel, the first night, I never sleep. And this is because we as human beings, we are quite sedentary. We have our little home and we just go on a holiday where we then have to spend multiple days in a room which is not ours. So it takes some time for our brain to process all the new noises, all the sounds surrounding us in order to settle down and feel more comfortable. When we go on holidays, also something that we owe to our ancestors, we love to be sunbathing and to listen to the sea breeze is just because we inherited that through our DNA from our ancestors. So I hope that you have a better understanding and insight when you design spaces for hospitality, that you keep that in mind, that in the end, we all behave the same, we all have the same patterns, but you really have to try to prioritize on this and always make sure that your design is a bit aligned with the way people proceed and the people act. So path to good room acoustics, so noise. A lot of research has been done. It causes mental fatigue with cognitive stress, concentration problems, and also influences psychophysiological reactions as well. So when we treat rooms and spaces in a proper way, we can reduce the adrenaline level by 30%. It will increase the work motivation by 66%. And this is not only the work motivation in office settings, also in a restaurant. Can you imagine as a staff member and when you're constantly exposed to a lot of noise coming out of speakers, coming from the guests talking in a very loud way, it will also increase your work motivation when they're surrounded by good acoustic setting as well. And also it will just make you feel more concentrated when you are surrounded by the right acoustic means as well. And then very important, with good acoustics, you can really optimize the food and sensory experience. And I will come to that in a minute. So when we try to identify sources of noise pollution in the hospitality industry, we have four defined spaces. First of all, lobby. Most of the lobbies have very reflective surfaces because they really need to give like a huge entrance and give a brand image of the hotel or the hotel group. Often you see marble, very hard surfaces, very high ceilings, and of course, you don't have any privacy. When you check in, you really feel that you are overlooked at, that people are also assisting to your conversation. When your phone rings, you have to go outside because otherwise everybody can listen to what you are saying. So therefore, I would suggest try to go for some soft flooring. And for soft flooring, if you know something about acoustics, you have to look at the acoustic absorption coefficient of a flooring that you would take into consideration. If you have, for example, a floor of a surface of 200 square meters and you bring in a flooring solution of modulyss, which has an acoustic performance value of 0.30, that means that 30% of sound will be absorbed in that flooring. If you take 200 square meters against 30%, that means that 60 square meter that you achieve 60% of 100% absorption rate for that flooring. If you take, for example, a PET panel against the wall of 24 millimeters, you reach an acoustic performance level of about 70%. So that means that 200 square meters that you would conceive or that you would consider as a wall panel, that you achieve immediately 140 square meters of wall paneling. And one tip that I also would like to suggest when you try to bring in acoustic products into a high ceiling lobby, try to bring in ceiling panels, because ceiling panels, when you hang them down in different heights, they will create different air layers which will soak up better those different sound waves. And also you have a dual absorption from the bottom and also from the top of the panel. So if you take a panel which measures, for example, 1 square meter, you will probably have 60% more of sound absorption that you generate because of the fact that you absorb from both sides. When we look at meeting rooms, and there again, something that I just want to bring on to, I really attend a lot of meetings in hotels, and I always am so disappointed that I go to a hotel which is near a sea, and I think like, wow, this is going to be a wonderful day, and then they always put you in the basement. So you don't have any daylight, and it really has an impact on your creativity and your inspiration. I think that you can just know for yourself if you are sitting in a room that faces nature or even just the street, you get better inspired and you get more creative as well from that. In a meeting room, it is key that you always try to detect where is the sound source coming from and where will it first hit a hard surface. So in most cases, you first reach out for the wall because the distance between the wall and the tabletop is often closer or shorter than the distance between the tabletop and that ceiling panel. So there I would suggest first reach out for the wall panels and also for flooring as well. And then secondary level, you can bring in some ceiling panels at all. When we talk about a guest room, there you don't have to do that many of implementations because a guest room has a mattress, and you'll be surprised, mattress and all the sheets, the soft seating that you see as an office chair, for example, or as a sofa, they really absorb a lot. So there with soft flooring, you can already get a long way. It's all about fine tuning with some wall panels, maybe a ceiling panel in order to really optimize the acoustics in those type of spaces. And then we come to a restaurant. Restaurant, I think this is the most critical space in a hospital setting. It's all about using all your senses and being able to focus and concentrate what people actually serve onto your plate. The better or the more that you can just align the senses of tasting, seeing, and hearing, the better you enjoy your food. Because as soon as you hear yourself and you see yourself touching food, you will also, and again, release endorphins, which make you feel happier and also calmer as well. This is also the reason when we actually have a bite from a piece of food, and I just take as an example chips. I mean, we always wonder how come when we open a bag of chips, we just eat it completely at once. It's just because that crispy feeling, that crispiness just releases serotonin, which is an endorphin, which is a happiness syndrome and hormone, sorry, and which will allow you or will force you to eat that bag of chips in one go. So now, in order to create spaces, we have a lot of services that we can offer you in order to make sure that you can create the best possible acoustic setting. So we can do a full acoustic consultancy, which consists of a room assessment with oralization, so before and after treatment of the spaces. So first we would need some basic information. You can send in a DWG file, and based upon that and the floor and ceiling wall composition, we can already start working on that. And I will be happy to share one of the assessments that we made recently. It's a hotel. So here, this is the assessment. So we have here, just going to scroll a bit, a banquet hall of 264 square meter with a room height of 3.4 meter. Very important in acoustics that you define which type of activity takes place in that specific room. So here, as we talk about a banquet hall, this is clearly a room where you remain for longer. If this would be a hotel room, it would be for sure the room with requirements for noise reduction and room comfort. So we use this formula in order to define what is the targeted reverberation time and how can we implement the right products in order to solve an acoustical problem in that specific space. So we will make a demarcation plan, and we use a software where we will put the microphones and the speakers in order to capture the sound as it is now in that specific space. So here you see it again. And then the result. So this is the reverberation time without any treatment. As you can see, if we don't treat this space, it's impossible to really enjoy a nice evening out in that space. This is the reverberation which is recommended according to the formula that we used in there. And this is what we reach by using our products and the products from modulyss. So here in total, for the area, we have 270 square meters of bespoke ceiling baffles and 270 square meters of the Willow EcoBag carpet system of modulyss. So, and this enabled us to bring down the average reverberation time from about 1.8 to 0.6 seconds. And you might think these are just figures and a graph. In order to experience it better and to try to sell the consultancy in a better way, we also make a full render of how the place will look like with the implementation of the products and also in oralization. So I'm happy to share this with you. So we have first, without the treatments, as you can see, we can just create a render where you can see it from different angles. And this is the room without any treatment.
Ways to calm your brain. In the hustle and bustle of our daily
And you can
lives,
change the
our minds
position.
often become entangled in a web of stress and
And
anxiety.
then we also
Calming
make
the
a
brain
clip
is essential for
oralization
maintaining
with
mental
the
well-being.
treatment.
Here are some quick and effective ways to find tranquility
And
in
you
just
can
90
immediately
seconds.
hear the dramatic change in that. Okay, so that's that. We make a full cutting or design plan so that the installation team, the technical team, knows exactly the distance of the baffles, where the structurals or the elements which need to be used in order to hang anything against the ceiling, where they have to be positioned. And then we also, again, will share the full render of the space. So that's that one. And then we have another example, because often it's also important that you try to create an environment where the speech intelligibility is also important. So the speech intelligibility has all to do with the amount of decibels. So when we talk about reverberation, we will talk about the amount of hertz, and we will bring in the reverberation time, which we will have to decrease to an acceptable level. when we talk about speech intelligibility, it's about the way your ear perceives the sound coming in and how the brain processes the different sounds. So there we talk about decibels. And this is what we did. We did a dual assessment for this one. This is a huge cultural hall, which is also used for seminars. So you can understand it not only for projections, but also for seminars. It's important that people on the back end can perfectly understand what people in the first row say as well. So here again, the same principle. We brought in the Willow EcoBag carpet system, the ceiling panels, and then also the reverberation time without any treatment, and then with the treatment and what recommended would be. And of course, ideally, it should always be concentrated or lined up between the two black lines as well. So then we brought on the speech intelligibility index. So, and as you can see, by bringing in our elements, we came up with an excellent speech transmission index as well. So you will see them here where the elements that we recommended are actually situated. And of course, we have our oralization again. Good. So without a treatment, and first let me just show you the space, how it looks like. And we do without.
Ways to calm your brain. In the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, our minds
For
often
another
become
position.
entangled in a web of stress and anxiety. Calming your brain
And
is
then with the
essential for
acoustic
maintaining
treatment.
mental well-being. Here are some quick and effective ways to find tranquility in just 90 seconds.
So as you can see, you can perfectly hear the difference between the different setups without and with treatment. I just want to share you like a last one from a meeting room where you first have with carpet flooring, then carpet with ceiling baffles. And I know people who have earplugs in, they will probably hear the difference at all, but I'm happy to share the presentation afterwards so that you can also listen to the different sound clips again.
This is the story of Liam Timmins, the most dedicated lollipop man in his quaint, colourful town by the sea. Liam wakes up
with ceiling
This
baffles.
is the story of Liam Timmins, the most dedicated lollipop man in his quaint, colourful town by the sea.
And
This
then the full
is the
treatment.
story of Liam Timmins, the most dedicated lollipop man in his quaint, colourful town by the sea.
Okay. That's that. Okay. And then I want to share you a wonderful project that we did that you see where all elements fit perfectly well together. The full sensory experience, the sound, and it's really wonderful to see it coming to its fruition from the acoustic assessment to the implementation, and then also the wonderful reactions from the people who actually eat in that space.
Koji osjećamo ili ne osjećamo u prostorima u kojima boravimo je jedan od suštinskih važnosti za zdravlje i utiče dosta neprimetno na raspoloženje tokom dana.
Projektovanje nije samo o estetici. Radi se o tome kako se prostor osjeća.
Ja sam Aksinja Lukić, naš projektni biro se zove Vasona, nalazi se u Novom Sadu i imamo projektni tim od trenutno 8 inženjera.
Ono što smo stvorili zajedno sa Impact Akustikom više je od lepog prostora. Prostor u kome je svaki detalj, sve do zvuka, deo jednog ambijentalnog luksuza.
Zbog ovako jednog jedinstvenog dizajna projekat je dosta razrađivan kroz 3D prototyping. Kroz preradu hiljade plastičnih boca, Impact Acoustic je transformisao ove materijale u kvalitetne zvučne apsorbere. Mi smo opet putem parametrijskog dizajna, laserskog sečenja došli do toga da imamo ovako jedne nestandardne forme koje do sada nismo imali prilike da vidimo kod nas. Zajednički timski rad između škogorskih termi, studiju Vasona, je zapravo jedan iskorak ka veoma bitnoj inicijativi održivosti, inovaciji i našoj zajedničkoj posvećenosti za kvalitetnim prostorom i brizi za planetu.
Okay, so and here again, then next stage. So this is a hotel in Serbia, in Novi Sad, that we did with one of our partners there, and which really like a wonderful example where we took on from the initiation of the project all the way to the implementation, the execution as well, with wonderful results. So just to quickly show you that we then also do the full cutting plan, that you really don't have to worry about anything, and also to make it easier on the install team. You can see that all the individual lemels, they have their own individual number and grade. So it makes it easy for the install team to just unpack everything, and they have the assembly guide and instruction. They can just start assembling right away. You might be surprised, but this whole installation took no longer than 3 days. Okay, so I would like to share some inspiration now. I think what is very important when you consider acoustical implementation or solution into a product, it can never have the appearance of it. It's like here you see those baffles. The visitors probably think like, wow, great idea of the architect, the interior designers, not being aware that it really serves to a maximum level the acoustics in this space as well. So here in a very subtle way, like a piece of art, but very, very functional, very, very efficient. Those panels made from PET felt that are also perfectly aligned. So you don't have to abandon or give up on your initial design. Everything can be perfectly harmonized, the acoustics and all the whole setting, the layout of your project. We have a event room where we implemented the elements against the ceiling. Here, for example, a terrace. I mean, it just looks very, very nice, but people are not aware that those baffles are there in order to just improve the sound levels as well. Here, quite challenging with this concave shape, that we just managed to give like some small cutouts on the back end of the PET felt, and then just glue them directly against the ceiling. This was the Sheraton Nice airport, where you see very lot of reflective surfaces, and where we brought in those big elements in order to decrease the absorption and the reflections on the different surfaces. Coffee bar with also in a very subtle way the ceiling panels. Here also the whole ceiling is just covered with PET panels of 24 millimeter, and the sound is really remarkably well in there. This again, a bit where they took their inspiration from. This has been voted the most beautiful restaurant in Germany. It's a sushi restaurant, but there again, it has the appearance visually. It's very, very striking, but the acoustics are really so accommodating, and people really just enjoy their sushi in that place. Then here, this is for the Cheddi in Andermatt, and you might wonder where is there the acoustic implementation, where here again, in a very subtle way, we brought in like white panels, like it looks like gypsum board, but these are PET panels which are just situated between those wooden slats. Hotel room, also a little desk where we put the PET panels against the wall. Here, done by the same architect as the second slide that I showed you, again in a very arty, subtle way, that you see those big surfaces that are filled with the acoustic panels without really giving in onto the design or the layout of the overall project. Event hall, where also we have the baffles, perfectly colorful, everything wonderful mix and match. Here as a headrest, but also just to make sure that we don't have any distractions from the adjacent rooms as well. Also for wellness, it can perfectly be implemented as well, that people can enjoy the quiet by having those ceiling panels against the ceiling. And then we have, of course, for modulyss, the flooring, they're a bit favorized because in hotel rooms, as I mentioned in the beginning, you have the mattresses, you have all that soft seating, the covers, the sheets, they already absorb a considerable amount of the sound waves, but nevertheless, without the flooring, you would never have the same effect. So it's really very important when you consider like tiles or soft flooring, always make sure that you choose for a absorption level of at least 0.15, because otherwise you're going to bring in a lot of other products as well in order to work upon a good soundproofing. I think this is a wonderful project that modulyss did there as well. Always a perfect match, and I think it's just also the merit of the designer to do a wonderful match with all the existing colors and create something very nice unit. When you consider acoustical problems, this is the reason why I immediately wanted to have this presentation with modulyss, because we both really make a big or put a lot of focus on sustainability. So modulyss has a take back, give back program, which consists of the fact that you can return after a life cycle your flooring or your tiles. And when it's made from the eco bag, one-on-one, they can recycle and turn it into new floor tiles or into a new complete flooring. When it's not possible, they can just shred everything into small little pieces. They can recycle it and they can use it as a backing on a new type of flooring. And also they can recycle everything and just give it to the cement industry where it can implement it, be in the cement for that purpose as well. We at Impact Acoustic, we go a bit further. We create what we call a digital passport. So when we collect bottles from the river, from the ocean, or even from parks, because you really find a lot of plastic out there, we scan everything. We give it a scan code. So it goes into production, and when you receive it on site, you can actually see where the original bottles have been collected and also see the entire production process, after which you can use an app on which you can put your product for sale. It can also be that we are interested in recycling it ourselves, and your customer or you as a customer will always get 10% kickback of the initial price that you paid from your product. So I think it's not thinking about sustainability, but more in a circular way. Extend the life cycle of the products that you consider as a designer, as an architect as well. And then last but not least, as a key giveaway, we as Impact Acoustic, the company was founded 5 years ago with one aim, and that was to really stop the use of single-use plastics on this planet. And we decided to make a firm statement against 5 companies: Coca-Cola, Suntory, Danone, PepsiCo, and Danone, in order to make sure that we never supply any products to them, because those 5 companies are responsible for 20% of global pollution when it comes to plastic waste.
In 2021, we decided to stop supplying our products to Nestle, Danone, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and Suntory, the companies responsible for making the society addicted to bottled drinks. Deception, false marketing, and greenwashing to continue profiting from us without any remorse.
Okay, and so maybe like this, we can just close the circle, because we talk about greenwashing, and greenwashing is something that comes out of the hotel industry. It was a journalist, Jay Westerfeld, who first used the word greenwashing when he visited in 1983 a hotel in Fiji, where he was surprised that they had a little note which says, if you don't, or if you are willing to reuse your towel, you can save the environment, and you also contribute to Mother Nature. And he found out afterwards it was just like a fake thing. It was just about saving on laundry costs. And this is where the term greenwashing comes from. So, but I think it's very important for you as an architect, consultant, salesperson, that you always make sure that you reach out to those companies that really take sustainability, circularity very seriously, and together we can make an impact. So that's it from my side. I run a bit over time because, you know, once I get rolling, I get enthusiastic, I get carried away, but I hope this was a bit useful. And if you would happen to have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if we still have the time for that.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniel, for that fascinating deep dive into acoustics and hospitality spaces. It's incredible to see where our behavior comes from. This was really interesting, but also how thoughtful design choices can actually enhance both functionality, but also the atmosphere. It was really nice to see, especially with also the samples where you showed us without the treatment, with the treatment. It was really nice to see this.
Okay.
Now,
maybe
yeah.
I can add to it that we can do this for modulyss customers as well. So if you only consider like flooring or anything, you can just send to your local salesperson and they can just reach out to me, and we are happy to include all the flooring that you would consider for an acoustical treatment in hospitality or office spaces. We can just include it into our assessments and calculations.
That's lovely to hear. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Now we still have time for questions, don't worry. So for people who didn't yet ask their questions, you can now do it through the Q&A button. That should be able to work. I already have a few coming in. So what are the key differences between acoustic solutions for high-end luxury hotels and more budget hospitality spaces?
Well, I wouldn't say there are no difference because, as I said in the beginning, we all belong to the same brothers and sisters, and we all have the same behavior patterns. I just know that for like a lower key, there aren't those budgets. The thing is that for low budget, they also go for cheaper natural materials. They don't consider flooring; they go for hard surfaces. So you even have more acoustical problems in the lower end hospitality settings than you have in the higher end. But even there, if they don't consider like flooring, we just have to bring in some more wall panels. But I'm pretty sure that we can really tweak it a bit and that we can really come with very budget-friendly solutions for those typical settings as well.
Okay, nice. What are some emerging trends in acoustical design that will shape the future of hospitality venues?
Well, I think that more and more people go back to softer tones, to pastel tones when it comes to color settings, and when it comes to acoustics, I think what we are showcasing with our baffles, this is something that we see more and more implemented in a restaurant, because the architect can really be as crazy as he wants with his creativity, and yet people are not fully aware that it serves acoustics. So it's really a bit subconsciously that we try to work on acoustics and creating wonderful, wonderful settings. Also, what we see in acoustics, that people are really reaching out to more and more natural materials and also natural resources. So we are also experimenting now with implementing cotton linters into acoustic panels, and also mycelium, so fungi, mushrooms that are also implemented into acoustic panels. The only thing that we always have to check is the fire rating. Fire rating is very key for hospitality, because you don't want to be held, not as a supplier, not as an architect, not as a salesperson, liable for any fire issues. So, but we are really compliant with all the regulations, with all possible certifications in the industry.
Nice. I'm curious how it will go, because with the natural elements, for example, you say mycelium, it has a lot of potential, I feel like, but it's important it stays viable, of course.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Another one, I am curious about the maintenance and lifetime of the acoustical elements.
Oh, okay. So we make our products from recycled PET bottles, and they really have a life cycle at endlessly. I mean, you can use them endlessly. The only thing, depending on the environment and the filters from the air conditioning, it can be when you use like a light color, like a white or a gray, light gray color, that you can have some black stains on it, but there you can easily just vacuum clean it once in a while, maybe every quarter that you do it. If you have stains on it, you're going to be surprised, but we have a YouTube channel on which you see where we test it. When you just spill coffee or red wine on a white panel, you just apply hydrogen peroxide, you just let it soak in for 24 hours, and by miracle it disappears. So it's really very, very maintenance friendly.
That's nice. What advice would you give to hospitality designers looking to enhance both sound comfort and visual appeal in their projects?
Well, I think first you start from your initial design, and that you always already include from the beginning in your budget, because in the end your customer has to pay for it, that you already implement or just try to include some basic acoustic elements. And therefore I think you can come to us, because we are really not a manufacturer but a service provider. We can give that initial let's say advice on how to implement the best possible elements and products. And of course, if you're limited in budget, I have, for example, here a 12 and 24 millimeter. There's a difference in acoustic performance, but also in pricing. So we can always, according to the budget, make sure that we create a good setting. But don't forget, acoustics is really like insulating your rooftop as well. You cannot go for half a solution. With acoustics, you have to go all the way, or you will always have dissatisfied customers. And I think for flooring is the same. You cannot just say we only have budget for half a room. No, you just will have to cover the entire room. But we are there to help you out with any possible solution or advice.
That's nice to hear. Thank you everyone for the questions and for joining us today. As a reminder, all the details from today's session, along with the recorded version of the webinar, will be sent to you via email soon. And don't forget, our next webinar is coming up. It's the third session. We'll be exploring the power of acoustics and flooring in commercial design with Remy Wenmakers. It's going to be another insightful discussion, so make sure to mark your calendars. Once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the really interesting conversation, and I hope to see you next on the modulyss talk session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.